Good evening and welcome. We'd like to acknowledge that tonight we are working and learning on the Fort William First Nations traditional territory and Waju, so Buju, and welcome as we move forward.
Hi. So we're going to take this video in two places. One is looking back and then one is moving forward. So we wanted to talk about the finances. We found that people found that quite interesting, and really for most people coming out of the classroom especially, you wouldn't necessarily have any experience with what that actually looked like and where the money comes from.
Fortunate enough to have a business degree, I kind of like this part of the of the job. So I like looking through budgets, but I can tell you how critically important it is to understand where the money comes from. You, especially if you're working in some of our larger boards and more informed school councils,
They know.
Yeah, they know, and they are, or they will be asking you for more money or more funds or funds to be put in certain places. And there's just certain types of restrictions that we need to understand. It also helps us to understand the ministry's priorities and how we align our plans, both school and board, with the ministry priorities, and how our finances continue to support student achievement. And really, I don't think people think about it that much, but that's what the money should be designed for. So when you're making those decisions, critical decisions in your schools about spending money, or if you're in a board position and making decisions about money, you really want to start asking, and hence the reason we look a lot at data as well as this unit. You really want to start asking, is the data supporting the money? That it's actually moving student achievement forward in that agenda. So,
and one of the things that we did talk about is, well, we've talked about, and it came out in some of the work that you wrote, is different schools have different ways of organizing their budgets. But ultimately, if you're engaging in conversations with your staff about why they have to engage in training or math training or specific types of training and learning for your teachers, it is, I will say 100% of the time, I think quite comfortably, superintendents base how they allot finances in a board to the needs of the students, and how do they support teachers to meet the needs of the students. So just knowing that little bit of information helps you engage in a more meaningful why conversation with your teachers when there may be, I mean, I've been there. I remember going, oh, why do I have to go? I just want to stay in my classroom. Not again, not again. Because, time away from your students as a teacher, that's something that you really value. And I'm helping teachers understand that there is a really important reason why that you're taking a little time out to do some adult learning to support student learning.
And the next piece there, you've been asked to engage in some data analysis, and you're allowed to choose some data sets. And then your next piece will be taking that data into the moving forward, which would be our next Module 5. You'll be taking that data and starting to design some instructional practices or instructional moves around that. And you get a chance to look at Stephen Katz, I think it's chapter 4 that we're looking at.
And we saw quite a few of you doing that in your practicums already when you've been sharing the work that you've been doing. We have had several people who've looked at math practicums, and they've done data-driven design and thinking about theories of action and problems of practice with their teachers, and how to do school-wide implementation for adult learning to support student need. We also think about that, how to focus your collaborative inquiry process if that's the vehicle that you're using to drive your adult learning. And we're going to have you do a little bit of Stephen Katz reading, so he's a favorite of mine and Christy's. But having had a chance to work directly with him and support the adult learning, and really that precision that Fullen talks about in focusing laser-like what it is that you want to spend time learning about and how that's going to directly impact your students. So
That's coming up.
Yeah, coming up.
Behavioral event. And this is, as we prefaced it in the introduction to this activity or task, more and more, I'm sure those of you who've been through interviews for VP or PE or other kind of system positions within your board recognize that they're beginning to use or really implemented the behavioral event of question. And what they're looking for, and what we're looking for, is the ability to talk about the policies, the frameworks, the leadership moves, your theory, and combine it all in stories of action. So how has it all come together for you, and what kind of stories do you have that you can tell at that table when you get to that interview point that exemplify all of those things that we've been looking at as we've moved through part 2, including your own philosophies and the policy frameworks that you know about, and the instructional moves that you've planned. So how do all of that come together? And they're looking for real stories, real examples. So
with real, actual, how did you monitor? How did you know?
Real results.
Yeah, and that is exactly what I think boards are looking for. It's good to think about every possible question you might have, and then have a couple of like examples that you can walk through as scenarios. because depending on which way those questions go, you will maybe want to take different stories out of your back pocket and talk about those.
Having recently just done an interview,
Yeah.
I can say that they're certainly not moving away from that. If anything, things are moving much more towards that kind of interview process. And so it's good to get to know yourself. There are things in your back pocket and things that you have gone through and done, and actionable items that you haven't probably thought of in years. Or in months for some of you, but it's good to start thinking about them, get them jotted down, work them through, think about what kinds of things are exemplified in that event that you're describing in your story. So if it's leadership moves, or if it's your philosophy, or if it's how you use data to plan instruction, or the results that you got, or moving a school or moving children in a certain direction, then those are the things you want to think about. Tell the story first, and then think about what kinds of qualities are emphasized there and how you're going to tell that story.
And it's important if you can think about things within the last 2 years, because there is some research out there that talks about your best predictor of future actions is your most immediate past actions. So when you think of your stories, try to keep them relatively current. Don't be reaching back to when you're 20 years old and
New teacher in the classroom.
Yeah, so be thinking about within the last 2 years and finessing what it is in terms of specifics, because they will get down to specifics. What did you say? What was their response? How did you know that? What was their body language? How did you know that? What was your response to that? So you really have to be thinking, put yourself right back into that moment in time. So all right, so we look forward to reading that. Keep up the good work with the practicums, and we would encourage you, since there's not that many practicums in each module, try to take the time to read through them all if you can and comment. The work that has been done and the learning that we can get from reading each other's practicums is really quite invaluable. And I know myself, I've learned. That's one thing we were talking about, how much we love this course, because we learn a lot as we teach, because we learn from you and with you. As we're going through the course with you again. And it's different every time because there's different people in the group and with different experiences. So thank you. Have a great evening. And good luck in the next module.
Thank you.